Chapter 16, Riding with the Devil. On a Wednesday night toward the end of August 2003, about 8 months after I'd first gone under, Crash and I were standing guard over the motorcycles when Big Todd called us into JB's garage. JB was a 30-year Army veteran and sales manager at Caterpillar, and he had offered his beautiful home for church meetings. And even though he kept us pinned with garden tools, that garage was a damn sight better than most of the places where the Vagos held church. The Patches were waiting when Crash and I entered. Besides Big Roy, Todd, and JB, there was Doc, Sparks, Slinger, Buckshot, Swede, Jimbo, Reddy, North, and Chopper. And every one of those boys was looking grim. What's wrong now, I thought. And did it have anything to do with the knucklehead standing next to me, my fellow prospect and personal albatross, Crash? Right away, Big Roy was in my grill. "You motherfucker, I know you did." "I don't know what you're talking about, Roy," I said, my mind racing through the possibilities. "You don't know, huh?" Now Roy shifted his ire to Crash. "What about you, asshole?" Stammered Crash before shrugging his shoulders. "Swear to God, Roy," I said, "we don't know what you're talking about." "Is that right?" Roy fumed, then turned and commanded, "Show him, North." North, who had recently been promoted to vice president after Todd had gotten sacked for screwing up again, stepped forward with 2 manila envelopes. "Here's what I'm talking about, motherfuckers," Roy growled. He reached into one of the envelopes and pulled out Loki, the Vagos center patch. "Hell yeah," Big Roy slapped the patch against my chest, then punched the spot as hard as he could. North did the same to Crash, and a cheer went up from the Patches. "Welcome to the club, brothers," laughed Roy. The members swarmed us, hugging, slapping backs, shaking hands, and kissing cheeks. "All right, assholes," Roy interrupted. "You know the drill. You've got 5 minutes to sew those patches on or lose them forever." As I stitched Loki to the back of my cut, it began to dawn on me that the long and grueling march from prospect to patch was finally over. The door to the outlaw world had swung open. I'd be allowed to attend church meetings now, maybe even take over one of the leadership positions like sergeant at arms or treasurer. Man, there were real possibilities there for doing damage. I followed the Vagos from JB's garage. Then we mounted our bikes and headed out on the San Jacinto Valley bar crawl to celebrate the chapter's newest patches, Crash and Big George. That's the nickname Big Todd had always hung on me, and that's how he phoned it in to the National without Big Roy's permission. The man was of the opinion that 2 bigs in his chapter was more than enough. He'd just gotten rid of Big Doug. Now he had to deal with Big George. As far as Big Roy was concerned, I was one big over the limit. For now, though, it would be Big George making the rounds and showing off his new colors to a public that couldn't care less. They just wanted me gone with the rest of the Vagos. By the time we landed at Johnny's restaurant, our final stop, we'd picked up a handful of patch members from some of the other neighboring chapters, including a few boys from Norco, Quickie John's crew. The restaurant was practically empty when we walked in. In the years since the Vagos had taken over the place, business had dried up. The few patrons that remained watched us with nervous eyes and whispered urgently among themselves. Look, the barbarians had arrived. Hide the women and children. There were 1%ers who would claim those civilians were showing respect for the patch, but that's not the way I saw it. If anything, what I saw in those faces was fear of the patch. Of course, that was the seduction for many who joined motorcycle gangs like the Vagos. Punks like Roy and Big Todd got their rocks off on that power trip. But there was something else I was aware of while laughing and drinking with the boys at Johnny's that night. Odd as it sounds, I felt their sense of brotherhood. I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with my past. I spent a good deal of it orphaned or adopted, never quite fitting in, and the Vagos offered a family where the misfit toys could find common ground and belong to something greater than themselves. John Carr had warned me not to get too chummy with that brutish clique. That's exactly what happened to Special Agent Billy Queen when he went under with the Mongols in 1998. The lawman got swept up in the motorcycle culture and found himself drifting over the line. A lot of times guys go under and start calling each other brother, and before you know it, your focus gets lost, John cautioned during one of our Friday night meetings at the Little Lau. Never gonna happen, I assured him. I know the reason I'm here. And I meant it too. I never lost sight of why I'd gone under with the Vagos. Why I worked so hard, risked so much, and put up with such bullshit for that Loki on my back. I think it helped that I was never a greenie at heart. Guys like Hammer, who was a patch holder and bled green before turning for the feds, had a hard time breaking clean once the mission was ended. I spent most of the night bar crawling with my back to the wall, guarding against any effort to tear that center patch off my back, which would bust me back to Prospect. Crash, on the other hand, was drunk and careless, and he wasn't much of a seamster either. Big Todd got his fingers under Loki and ripped it right off of Crash's cut. Amid the yelling and screaming and finger pointing that followed, I slipped from the bar and punched the number for Uncle Johnny Law into my Nextel. You think you're the balls now, don't you? Were the first words out of John's mouth. Well, let me tell you something, Big George. You're just another piece of shit Vagos to me. This piece of shit Vagos is gonna make you famous, motherfucker. Bullshit, John laughed. You want famous? Ride with the angels. At least you could have got that red and white. I cursed my handler good-naturedly. He gave it right back. Then the bouncer came charging out Johnny's back door. George, I need help in here. The Vagos had a stomp circle going, and some unfortunate civilian was on the ground in the middle of it. With the help of the bouncer, I managed to get the man off the floor and away from the crazed bunch. Then I dragged him out the back door and into the parking lot. When I returned to the bar, the Vagos were laughing drunkenly, and Big Roy was wiping blood off his boot with a napkin. What happened? I asked Todd. I told him to move, but the fucker wouldn't move. Roy tossed the bloody napkin onto the bar and grinned. He moved. A code 69 is a war call. If a patch Vago gets a code 69 message at home or on his cell, it means there's an emergency and the club business comes first. You drop what you're doing and get your ass to the location of that emergency. And if you don't make it, you better have a damn good reason why, because when it comes to ignoring the code 69, the Vagos will definitely hunt you down. As Big Roy so aptly described it, code 69 is serious club shit. The day after my hard night celebrating the patch, I was draining my second cup of Java and trying to ignore a splittering migraine when the phone rang. Code 69, said Todd the moment I answered. Code 69. What's going on? This dude just jumped my ass and fucked me up. I think my legs broke. Code 69, bro. I got an address and a general direction, then grabbed my truck keys. Before I could make it to the door, Jenna came out the bedroom, half asleep and fully pissed off. The call had awoken her highness, and she was looking to tear someone a new asshole. I can tell you from personal experience that getting that woman out of bed in the morning was akin to poking a hibernating grizzly. You almost had to cover your nutsack because the bitch just might grab hold and tear it right the fuck off. Todd's in trouble, I told her as I rushed out the door. Whatever danger I was headed for couldn't be half as bad as facing my girlfriend in the morning. I hopped in my truck and sped away, arming with nothing but an address. And for the life of me, I couldn't find the fucking place. I finally rode across Highway 74 and went to Jack Fight's house for directions. Jack wasn't riding with the Hemet Vagos at the time. He'd grown tired of Big Roy's bullshit and left to join Nels Bloom, who we called Swede, as treasurer of the new Vagos chapter in Winchester. There were no worries as I knocked on Satan's door. No concern about getting another broken leg. For one thing, I was a patched holder now. I could fight back. Besides, the evil one had apologized. Jack explained he just had a really bad day when he stomped me, and he was really sorry for that. Motherfucker would be even sorrier once the takedown happened and Operation 22 Green was in the books. Sometime later, I grabbed my audio and video gear, went over to his house, and bought 15 grams of methamphetamine that he kept buried next to his backyard shed. I knew this because I poked through a hole in the garage when I wasn't supposed to be looking and saw where Jack dug up his stash. The man came back bragging how he had a pretty good racket going. For $1,000, someone was cooking meth for him. Then Jack would turn around and resell it for 10, pocketing an easy 9 grand. Well, enjoy it while you can, motherfucker, I remember thinking, cause you're going down, Jack. By this time, my response to Todd's urgent code 69 was pretty pathetic. If the brother was bleeding out somewhere, the tank could probably run dry. Fortunately, Jack Fight knew which direction to point me. The homeowner who lived at that address just around the corner was a friend of his and one of Hemet's bigger dope dealers. At first, Jack suggested I forget about the call and go home, but when I told him I had an obligation to help Todd, Jack sent me on the way with the promise to follow. At the end of the cul-de-sac, I found Todd and my ex-girlfriend Christy, John with the long-haired mountain of a drug dealer named Dave. The story I heard later was that Todd had paid the dealer for crystal meth that was never delivered.